morning, everybody. Keith Engel here for TGI Sports Talks Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Great to have you all with us here today. Hopefully, we'll have better video connection than we had last week. I've been checking my upload speed all morning, and I think we may have corrected some issue. Hopefully, I'm not speaking too soon. I'm actually running another test as we speak right now, so anybody who signs in, please let me know how the video quality is for you. We don't want to be buffering the way we did last week. I've had several conversations with Spectrum that have gone absolutely nowhere because I fixed it myself. I played with my mesh network, and I may even have to get another couple pods to extend it, but I think we fixed the problem. Good morning to everybody on this rainy, horribly rainy Sunday morning here in the Northeast. Some tornadoes around. Be safe if you're anywhere near that. We welcome everybody who will be watching us today on Northeast Streaming Sports, Let's Talk Sports, Sideline Sports. So again, we keep expanding where we can we go live to or show up later on demand. You can always catch us on TGI Sports Talk's page as well, on Facebook, YouTube, and plenty of other outlets. Lots to talk about today. We'll get into a lot of it. Let me say a couple of good mornings first. Good morning, Dave Guyette, watching from work this morning. Good to have you with us. Dave has made a return. Spectrum is the Facebook of internet providers. I got to tell you a quick story before I get into kind of the rundown for today. So I had them come because the first Sunday I did the show, I just worked off of their their connection, which they don't have. Well, they do still have 5G and 2.4. If I'm using the right terms, I think it's 5G, 2.5G, or 2.4G. It could be a different thing than G's like your phone is. And I used to be able to toggle between the two. When you're really next to the modem, you use the 5. When you're further away, you use the 2. Plus, I had my own mesh network in my previous office, home, studio. Well, the first Sunday, if you guys remember, I think I had a great quality, probably better than I ever had. And then last week was atrocious. So I called them. They come to the house, and the guy goes, I don't know why they called me. Nothing I could do. The guy even walked in the door. Jesus Christ. So, he changed out the modem, which did nothing. Good morning, CA. I played around with the mesh network, hooked the mesh network back up. It's not optimal as far as the download speed, but I don't really care about the download speed. I'm just keeping this computer that we use this for the upload speed, which continues to show plenty of upload, so it should work out. Good morning. Did they cut Jack's Jello at the nursing home? I think they cut it with some, not cut in the fact that they reduced it. I think they put something in it this morning. Oh, my God. Jack was like, it's too funny. I couldn't get a word in. Jack's all right. I love Jack. She's one of the best. If you're curious, Rick is referring to my, before I come here, I'm on the Mac and Jack show with Jim Jeffco, who wasn't there today to run interference for half an hour before I start here. So we had fun. I always have fun with those guys. Today, guys, we're going to talk some Major League Baseball. I want to talk about the All-Star Game and your thoughts. I can't stand it anymore. I just can't. The uniforms, everything. We'll get into who's been helped by the break. Looks like the Jays got some help from the break. They got off to a decent start so far. The second half, very short, small window. Obviously, it's helped the Rangers. It didn't hurt the Orioles. They're won 7 in a row. Probably hurt the Astros' momentum. Hurt the Indians. Sorry, the team formerly known as the Indians' momentum. I think it killed the Mets. And some other teams we'll look at as well. Dodgers continue to win. So we'll look at all of that. Some buyers and sellers, some players that will likely be available. Some prospects called up. Phillies call up their top prospect, Rojas, who played yesterday. Played pretty well. And the Yankees taking on sponsorships on their uniforms. It was only a matter of time for this stuff started to happen. And I'm not terribly happy with that. The NFL, I want to talk a little bit about the Patriots and the Bill Belichick Kraft Jones relationship has taken a new turn as we found out more information recently about how close the Kraft family is with Mac Jones, which doesn't bode well for Bill Belichick, I'm afraid. And I'll be reversing my field on some of my comments about Bill Belichick's future, possibly. We'll look around the news, maybe look at the Hall of Fame nominees for the seniors and the coaches and contributors. It was reduced to 31, or I believe, this last round. Next time it'll be down to 12. By the way, I look at the senior nominees and I'm like, how can these guys be senior nominees? Roger Craig is in there. But again, that's how they do it. College football, I want to talk about the Northwestern scandal a little bit more. And of course, your topics as well, guys. Bring them and we'll talk more about it. And by the way, speaking of saying good morning to CA, everybody, please, and I'll try to pull this up. Let me try something here while we're talking. I hope by doing this I don't hurt my feed. Everybody get into, if you could, we got 12 spots for the TGI Sports Talk Fantasy Football League, graciously set up by CA. We'll probably make a few tweaks to some of the that's too funny. I cannot get into my oh, here we go. I'm going to copy this, see if I can copy the link here and share it in the room. But get in there. We're going to have some fun with this. Maybe we'll come up with a fun prize. Maybe the winner gets to come on and run the show for a week. Let's see if this works. But get in here, have some fun, do some trash talking, whatever you want to do. And there you go. You can also find this on the TGI Spark. Yeah, you'll get 5 versions of this, obviously. I see. I think doing that, getting into Facebook, I think hurt my feed. Terrible. What I missed here. Yeah, more. Let's start here. We're going to get into Rick. We'll get into Jim Marshall in a little bit this year as well. We'll get into some of the names, and I'm gonna go through them, and I'll give you my yay or nay about whether I think they ought to be in, and you can give your opinions as well. Drew hasn't watched the All-Star game in over 10 years. I'm really in the same boat, Drew. I mean, once in a while I get suckered into the home run derby, whatever the hell they call it, on Monday night. I have no plans to watch it. Then whatever, 10 o'clock will come around, and I'll watch it till the conclusion. But I turned on the game, I don't know, for 10 minutes, 5 minutes probably, Tuesday night. And we'll start here. First of all, the game is to promote the stars of the league. Now, let me back up. First of all, I don't even see the need for the game because it's one league now. It used to be AL against NL. There was rivalries. There was players were invested in the league they played in, and they had some pride in winning or losing the game. Go back and look at Pete Rose leveling Ray Fosse. That's all you need to know about how much those guys want to win the game. Now they don't care. They're out there having fun, joking around with each other. They're mic'd up. We're talking to them while they're on the field. It's a freaking circus. Put on top of that, you're there to promote you're there to promote the youngsters, not just the youngsters, but the stars of the game, including the young players. And 2 great ones weren't there. Tatis, for probably obvious reasons, he was blackballed this year. Dela Cruz, find a way to get this kid on the team. I know he hasn't played, but whatever, 16 or 18 games at that point. I don't care. Find a way to get him on the team. And then when they're in this game, why are they not wearing their uniforms anymore? Their team uniforms. Julio Rodriguez is representing, albeit I think, but as an alternate, I should say. He's not even there wearing his home colors. Well, the colors were similar to the Seattle uniform, but he'll be wearing his home uniform. And when you don't see these guys every day, guys like Corbin Carroll, I'm not even sure if he ended up playing in the game. But other youngsters or stars from other teams that maybe you're not familiar with, especially casual fans who you need to attract. And by the way, this is the lowest rated All-Star game in history. 3-point something rating, 7 million viewers. 20 years ago it was 35. And don't tell me there's a proliferation of other stuff. Everything's, networks are all in reruns. There's no sports to go up against. Yes, you got, original programming if you're paying for that type of thing. That's what I'm watching. On premium channels I'm talking about. But you have no competition in the sports world, and you can't get even, a hockey rating. So casual fans aren't there, and casual fans want to be able to know who these guys are. And how do you tell when they just walk up in a black uniform, nondescript black uniform, and if the league thinks those are attractive, they're wrong. And we all know why. I'm not naive. It's a money grab. Another money grab, because we can sell this jersey. And again, I guess I'm not the demographic, right? I'm just not anymore. I get that. But who is? 7 million people out of 300 million? That's your demographic? League's not going anywhere. So there's no pride from the players in the game. They're just there to have fun. Okay, that's great. Name a team, take 3 days off, and whatever. I have more fun watching a celebrity BS that goes on than the actual game. It's no fun. Jim Marshall, we will talk more about. We have 4 to 12 before this show. Hopefully it fills soon, talking about the fantasy. We can possibly come to a consensus on any changes. I'm going to copy and paste something into an email for you with just some suggestions, CA. And again, I don't think you've done a good job setting it up. There's a couple things that I might want to tweak or like to tweak. We don't have to either. Afternoon session of World Play Match on now. Last night's opening was cracking. So there's your update on the dart world. Excellent point about interleague games killing any value of winning it. It doesn't. From a purely fan standpoint, Drew, and I'm sure you feel the same way. When I was a kid, and you're a little older than me, but not eons. I wouldn't get to see. Again, we'd get a handful of Yankee games up here a year. We wouldn't get all the Yankee games. I was a radio guy. I loved the games on the radio. Still do, except I got to listen to John Sterling and Susan Whaling Walden. But the only time I would get to see the superstars in the National League specifically, and in the American League in a lot of cases, was in the All-Star game. It was a big deal. Now, with the proliferation of games on, we see these guys play every day. They play each other. There's an interleague game every day, if I'm not mistaken, based on the balanced schedule. You're going to see more of them. So it's one league. Nobody cares. Nobody's a demographic anymore. I don't even know. You may be right, Rick. I don't know. Excuse me. I'm here playing with my... I've always got to be fiddling. If you hear things dropping, it's usually me because I have to have my hands busy. What was I going to say? Demographic. Yeah. Well, I'm nobody's demographic. That's for sure. Sorry. I don't know if my wife got something or that was thunder. Loud bang. Well, she's all right. I'll get NCA, but I'm fully vested in baseball fantasy now. Fully vested. How'd I do? I know we got another week to go. Last time I did this and crowed, I got slapped around. How we doing? I want to knock off these top teams. That's my only thing to shoot for now. I can still shoot for fourth place in the playoffs. What else? Let's just take a quick look at what's going on in the news around Major League Baseball. Ohtani did hit his 33rd home run yesterday. Did come out of his start, I believe his third start in a row with a finger issue. He expects to make his next start. This is important because Ohtani, as we head closer to the trade deadline, I think it becomes more and more likely that he potentially goes. The Angels are going to listen where they may not have listened, a month ago because this team was in contention. But now this team, without Mike Trout for the next, 7 weeks, whatever it is now, he was out for 6 to 8 weeks, I think, when he first went down. They did win yesterday, but they're 2-8 in their last 10. They've fallen not out of the wild card race, but they're at least 4 games behind. And this team, with this pitching staff and the rest, and Rondon's hurt as well, or was hurt, and likely will get hurt again. Do they think they can make a run? Is it even worth it? And if they don't think they can re-sign Ohtani, then it's time to make a move for him to go. And maybe they get a good package. But if I'm to say, there are teams that will take him as a rental, which will drive down the cost. He's not going to get as much, right? He's not going to get a Soto package because Soto had a year or 2.5 years left on his contract when they signed him or traded for him. So, anyway, Fernando Tatis Jr. is day-to-day with an ankle injury suffered yesterday. Harper halts his career homeless drought yesterday with a home run. By the way, Aaron. We'll talk about Aaron Judge in a little bit. Anthony Rizzo, 40 straight games now without a home run. That becomes very concerning for the Yankees. This could be more than a slump, and it's a bad time for it to be happening. Another DL stent. Yes, DL, likely for, I think he's, I don't know if he went on. I thought he went on, but maybe he's not. He got hurt yesterday, hurt his calf. Not sure when, probably walking back to the dugout after another strikeout. Very good chance he's played his last game as a Yankee. I did say I thought they might release him during the All-Star break. I was wrong there. But the Yankees are interested in a couple of third basemen. Nolan Ariendo, I said it wrong again, didn't I? Why can't I say his name right? Is possibly on the block for the Cardinals. Arenado. I don't know that I'm trading for that contract in that age. Mets will be involved probably if that comes to pass. We'll see. But the Yankees are more interested, it seems, in Jameer Candelario, who's playing really well with the Nationals right now, and he's going to get a lot of interest as well. Let me get a couple comments here while we're here. Rick should be fully vested. He's firmly in second place. But we're going to try to make something happen with that this week. Kidding. I'll probably lead right up until next Saturday, Rick, and then you'll beat me by 5 or 6, so don't worry. Keith is playing Rick this week, so it should be fun to talk about next Sunday. Yes, so Keith's winning and getting ready to, have a flop in 8 categories. Scherzer and Verlander definitely not earning their paychecks for the Mets. Well, first of all, it's hard to earn a paycheck of $43 million, $40 and $43 million. It's going to be hard to trade them unless somebody wants to take on that contract. The Rangers have talked about Scherzer. There's been whispers about the Yankees and Scherzer. Nobody's taking on the contract for next year unless the Mets are going to eat a bunch of it. And if they're going to eat a bunch of it, they might as well stick it out with him and hope he gets hot. Because you're not going to get major prospects for a guy as old as him making that kind of money. I don't think. Rick's not talking smack anymore. The only time I did, Keith smacked. Not literally, by the way. Oh, God. What else is going on in baseball I haven't talked about? The Braves are no exception to the injury rule. They lose Minter from their bullpen to the DL. And we talked about Rojas getting brought up by the Phillies. Very interesting. He's going to play every day, which I believe is going to push probably rightfully so, one of their defensively challenged outfielders to the DH role. But where are you going to play Harper if you do that? That means you're going to move Harper to first base. I don't. They're going to have some options to give them some flexibility, maybe. And Blue Jays righty Gausman was scratched from his start yesterday. So, any other news we want to talk about before I talk about some other stuff in baseball? Shane Bieber gets put on the DL. Another guy who's being bandied about in trade talks, and we're going to talk about some of those guys here in a little bit and where they might fit. Kershaw may miss more time than we thought. Again, the problem, the Dodgers keep winning, but they keep losing pitchers right and left. Urias came back at just the right time as Kershaw was going on the DL, and he's now going to be out a little bit longer. The A's call up a couple of their top prospects, Soderstrom and Geloff. We'll see how that works out. And the Yankees adding sponsors, a sponsored patch to the jersey. Is this going to become NASCAR now? Are we going to become NASCAR? We're going to put patches all over the jerseys. They're going to debut Star Insurance logos will debut on the sleeves of Yankees jerseys on July 21st. The location of the patch will vary from player to player. The commercial insurance company was named as New York's signature partner Wednesday. It will be the team's first pitch patch partner. The Yankees become the 13th team in Major League Baseball with a sponsored jersey patch. The Padres, shockingly, were the first to reveal this last April. You know, right now, I guess it's barely noticeable because I didn't realize there were 13 teams doing this. I knew there were a few. Yankees uniforms are iconic, and partly so because of the simplicity. No names. We don't put the names on the jersey, but we're going to put a company sponsor name on the jersey. What is next? Now I get it. Okay, we do have the New Era logo or whatever. Whoever made the uniform makes the hat. Okay. That's fine. That's a Major League Baseball deal, and that's been for years. But now we're getting different. And how many patches are we going to allow? So, are these guys going to look like NASCAR drivers and cars with sponsorship patches all over the uniforms? There's not enough advertising in a stadium now. I'll get your comment there on East in a second, Drew. I'm going to go through the standings in just a bit. So anyway, some of this other stuff we'll get to as we go through here. Who are some of the names that are going to be bantied about? We'll go through these. We'll go through these names as well as the standings here. I think probably now. Just want to bring up something on my phone. So big names potentially going to be available in trades, and we'll talk about that as we go forward here. So let's get to Drew's point here. Oh, let me say good morning, Anthony Price. Anthony, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a little bit. Good to have you. Guys, just a reminder, too, and Anthony, I know you participate in the college football huddle. The college football huddle should be returning Wednesday night, the 19th, if that's the coming 17, 18, 19, I believe that's the 19th. We'll catch everybody up on everything college football, and that's happened since we've been on last. We took a little hiatus as the news was a little slow, and I was going to get ready for a move. So it seems like a pretty good time to kick it off. The shows will probably vary in length until we get into full-blown action in a month or so. But welcome, Anthony. Good to have you back. Glad to have you here. Yep, go Ducks. It's going to be an interesting season. We'll get into all of that. We'll talk a little college football this morning later if we have time. We're going to spend a lot of time on baseball and the NFL, I think, this morning. But we'll get to some college football headlines. I do want to talk about the Northwestern. What an ugly freaking situation. We'll get into that. Drew, AL East is even tougher place to play now. Tampa Bay correcting, as I kind of mentioned at the top, some of the teams benefited from the week off, right? The Rays were on a bad roll, still only 3-7 in their last 10, but they have won 3 in a row, 2 in a row since they've come out of the break. They probably could have used a breather. The problem is the Orioles stay hot behind them. They won their 7th in a row. They're now 21 games over 500. There were a lot of people who didn't think the Orioles were going to continue the growth that they'd shown last year. Well, they've not only continued it, they've improved it. I don't see this team folding. This team will be heavy after starting pitching. Watch out for this team. I think they need to go out and pick up 2 starters myself. Talked about it on the MLB update Friday. Jordan Montgomery be a good fit for this team. Jack Flaherty, if he stays healthy. But maybe they go out and make a bigger move. I mean, you're going to see guys like, Bieber would have been a good fit, but he's hurt now. Giolito is going to be available from the White Sox. Kyle Hendricks likely to be available from the Cubs, as will Marcus Stroman, I'm sure. Michael Lorenz, an all-star this year with the Tigers, will be available. Lance Lynn, who's really been getting lit up, but maybe he just needs to change the scenery. James Paxton, who's pitched well enough to be an all-star, apparently with the Red Sox. Could never pitch with the Yankees. He was awful. Eduardo Rodriguez, a left-hander from the Tigers, and I said Marcus Stroman. So those are some of the pitchers that are available. I think the Orioles will be all over that. The Rays should be all over that. Yankees likely will be all over that. It's going to be interesting to see what the Red Sox do. Red Sox 8-2 in their last 10. They lost yesterday. They're 5 games over 500. They're only, I don't know, a couple games. I guess 2 games out of the, if I'm looking at this right, 2 games out of the wild card race. All I got to do is toggle here, you dumbass. Excuse my French. 2 games out of the wild card race. So the Orioles just stay hot. They need pitching. They will be active in a different way than they were last year, I think, at the trade deadline. Why am I buffering again? Man, it's getting annoying. What else you got here, Drew? Toronto making a serious effort to remain relevant. All these teams are playing well. Any one of these teams, I mean, I didn't think Tampa Bay would get caught before, but, Toronto, Baltimore certainly is striking distance, only a couple games back. Even the Reds, even the Yankees, 10 games out. Listen, the Yankees have played bad baseball. I think they're 14-18 or 15-19, whatever it is now, with Judge out of the lineup. Some talk that Judge could be back. Listen, don't expect him to be back, I don't think, in July. They asked Boone. He did do some hitting and running in Colorado. Don't expect – Boone did say he could be back in July. But he quickly said, do not say that I said Judge said he'd be back in July, because that's not what I said. It still would need, a perfect storm for him to be back. The worst thing they could do is bring him back too soon and he gets hurt again. And for you guys, by the way, I heard a lot of guys going, "Oh, what? How come you can't hit with a toe?" And some guys that I go on podcasts with don't understand how this guy could be out so long with a toe injury. He tore a ligament in his toe. His big toe. Do you know how hard it is? If you've never had a turf toe, which I've done, basically stubbing your toe so badly, you can't walk. How can you expect a guy to play, run the bases, run in the outfield with a bad toe? I don't understand it. Poor Yank mess. Yankees did hire Sean Casey, as we know, as their new batting coach. Fired Dylan Lawson, who's a scapegoat. But again, is he a scapegoat when your team's got a 300 on-base percentage at this point in the season? It doesn't get worse than that. What did I rip the Rangers for all last year? as Alan was telling me how good their offense was. I ripped their on base percentage to start. .300. Is Sean Casey going to have an appreciable difference when we're talking about veterans? DJ's had a good weekend so far, 2 games in Colorado, but Colorado's a great place to hit. Rizzo's gone 40 games without a home run. Can Sean Casey make a difference? He'll make a small difference, maybe. I love his attitude. He brings an energy to that dugout, and that was poo-pooed by Jack this morning. It matters. It does matter, but does that make guys better? No. I love Sean Casey's approach. He was a good Major League Baseball hitter. But again, veterans are veterans, and other than helping them make little tweaks, you're not going to help them that much. So probably everybody buys here, except the Red Sox. I got this feeling the Red Sox, even though they're on the peripheral of this race, will probably sell. We'll talk a little bit about some teams who have decisions to make as well in a little bit. Do I have music in the background? It might be. The television over in the back corner has got the news on it. I don't think. Let me make sure I turn this off. Maybe you're still hearing that. I didn't have the. Let me know if it's gone now, Drew. I didn't have the music all the way turned down. AL Central, Minnesota. Listen, a team that didn't benefit from the week off, almost a week off. The Guardians, they've come out losing a couple in a row after the All-Star break, 3 total. To fall back 2 games over 500 after they fought an entire half season or more to get to 500, and we're in first place. Twins reclaim first place, game over 500. I still think the Twins are a better team. They'll buy. The Indians will probably buy. They need starting pitching. I don't think the Twins necessarily need starting pitching, though. Bullpen. Other than Duran, I think they're a little lacking there. The Tigers will be sellers. We've already talked about Rodriguez, who's going to be a free agent. They're not really in the race. They have won 2 in a row. The White Sox, they could trade half their team, but I don't think they will. Can the entire division be sellers? Yeah, basically, I think the Indians will buy. I really do. But I think we talked about this on. Let's take a look at this real quickly. That's not what I wanted to look at. I want to look at everybody but the Twins. And I'm not going to look at the Indians either. Who could be gone from the Tigers? Michael Lorenz, for sure. He holds some value for teams. Rodriguez holds some value for teams. Alex Lang has had a really good year, will probably be traded or at least be talked about a lot. I'd love to get rid of Javier Baez, but nobody's taking that contract, especially or his performance. And that might be it for them. Again, I'm sure there's other. I'm talking about obvious trade potential. The White Sox, to me, all over the field. Probably everybody's available except maybe Dylan Cease. Probably Andrew Vaughn is safe. Moncada, I think, is probably safe. Robert is safe. So those 4 guys. Other than that, you want somebody. You want Jimenez? Bring me a deal. You want Benintendi? Bring me a deal. Maybe the Yankees will be back in on Benintendi now after they see the mistake they made, probably not going that extra year in the offseason. Tim Anderson, a very good shortstop when he's healthy. Remillard, the local kid here, he'll probably stick around. Who knows what he'll do? They could move him, though. I mean, they don't have any reason to keep him necessarily. Got some good players in the bullpen that they can kind of look to move. We already talked about Lance Lynn being a candidate. Giolito. But the bullpen, the whole bullpen could be Kendall Graveman, Middleton. These guys could all be available for the White Sox. All of them. And who else do we have here? The Royals have already traded Chapman. Barlow is definitely a very good, I think, relief pitcher and would be better on a better team. Zach Greinke, who's currently on the DL, but he may want to finish up his Hall of Fame career, and he will be in the Hall of Fame, by the way. If he wants to finish up his career in a pennant race, he may get traded. I think they'll probably let it be up to him. The interesting thing with the Royals is going to be Salvador Perez. He doesn't want to be traded. He likes to be a Royal. He wants to be a Royal potentially for his whole career. But he's a valuable commodity, and he may get traded here at the deadline. He's somebody that more than one team would certainly be interested in that's going to be in this pennant race. So some interesting stuff there to kind of think about. What do we got here as we hopefully we can build. This is back to the fantasy football. Hopefully we can build to at least a 16-team league next season. Maybe then I can entice a few to pay a limited amount of gotcha. Just got notified. Alex confirmed. Thanks for joining, bud. Alec is with us today. So good morning, Alec. Let me just give Alec I'll go back to your LOS thing in a second, Drew. Alex signed up. Good to have you. Maybe the Yankees flip the script, sell off Aaron's ships sink. I don't think the Yankees will sell. Look at. It's possible that not. The Yankees have too much invested here. Firing the hitting coach. Sean Casey's only guaranteed through the end of the year. He's one of Boone's best friends, but that doesn't always work out. Some of his best friends have been fired so he can keep his own job. See Phil Nevin. Yankees are not going to sell because I think Cashman and Boone are in win now mode because they may not be here to get another chance. So I don't think that's going to happen. There's Alex saying thanks. So listen, I think it's quite possible we've seen the last of Boone and Cashman this year too. There's no more cover for them. I talked about this Friday. They fired the hitting coach. There's no more cover. There's no more reason for failure in the postseason. Has Boone been a good regular season manager? Well, the team's been good enough to win 90 plus or 100 games once. But they've never made a World Series. They haven't made a World Series since 2009. If you can't do math, and I don't do it very well, that's 14 years ago. How is that good enough in New York? Since the Yankees last won a World Series, let's see, the Royals have been there twice and won one. How is that okay? AL West. This will stratify significantly. Sorry. Stratify made me laugh. I don't know why. Texas and Houston will continue to rise. LA and Oakland will continue to sink. Angels won't sink as low as Oakland, I hope, for their sake. The Mariners need to figure out what they want to do next. The Mariners need bats, man. They got a really good pitching staff, and they can't have a consistent offense. That's their problem. And they've been very inconsistent this year, like a lot of teams have been. The Rangers, the break happened for a good time for them. They won their first two out of the break. After, faltering, and the Astros did lose yesterday, so the lead is now 3 again. But the Astros will be getting healthier. We talked about some of their players, Alvarez and Yaquido going on rehab assignments this weekend. Altuve eventually will get back, and he'll get back to himself. Bergman started to kind of right his ship at bat. Hopefully Pena's better in the second half. This is still, to me, the best team in the American League if they're clicking on all cylinders. Texas is going to buy. Texas has got to be looking for more relievers. They've already traded for Perez. I'd be looking for more relief pitchers who can get guys to swing and miss. They don't have those type of pitchers. They've got a couple good relievers, but again, not knock your socks off power pitchers. The Astros will probably buy. The Astros could very well try to move Abreu, who's playing better. We talked about their offense, and try to get better at that position. But Abreu's old. I think his best days are behind him, right? Unless he's going to turn the next Nelson Cruz, who, by the way, got released last week by the Padres. I didn't mention that. Or maybe it happened since we were on. I don't remember. Angels are not getting back in this. There will definitely be sellers, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Ohtani. They could trade Rendon. The Mariners, again, to me, there's a place where a manager is in trouble. They're still in the peripheral of this wild card race. 5-6 games behind. That's not undoable. We saw them win 12 or 13 games in a row last year. What's Drew talking about here? The A's 43 win pace. Thank you for that update, Drew. So they're now inside the I'm trying to do the math. That's 119 losses. So they're still close to where they could be potentially setting a new record for losses. You know, I poo-pooed the Rangers for a while, but that offense is really, really good. And if that pitching staff holds up, and I did say, and CA kind of disagreed with me, I think, a little bit. I think the contract to DeGrom is still going to come back to bite them because they don't have the wherewithal. They can have money, yes. Winning teams get more people to gate, more people watching on TV, generates more revenue. I get it. But they're not going. It's not just paying money out. It's also going over the cap and having to pay a luxury tax. Don't know where they are in that case. But I still think that $37 million or whatever it is a year that they guaranteed DeGrom is going to bite them in the ass. Oh, where did I leave off here? Anthony, hot take, Orioles will be first in AL. There's a good hot take. Not that far from fruition either, though. It's a good team. Again, need a couple of starters. How would his team look like if they went out and got, say, Jordan Montgomery and Marcus Stroman? Pretty good team all of a sudden. I've never been a big Marcus Stroman fan, but he's having a great year this year. Bochy installs Chapman and Smith as co-closers, depending on who on the opposing lineups. Isn't Smith a lefty too? I don't know why I'm thinking of Smith's a lefty. He's probably not. By the way, I don't know that I would have done this. I mean, because Smith's pitched pretty well. And now Chapman's been pitching well. But Chapman, by the way, has, especially in recent years, I should say, has made a habit of coming up small in big moments. Who's Smith? Where is Smith? I got the pictures up. Hold on. And I think, I guess you're right. He's a right-hander, but he's not going to. Where is he? He's pitched pretty well. 2.91 ERA, whip under 8. 37 strikeouts and 8 walks in 34 innings. He's pitched well. I don't think I'd be messing with that. But look at Bruce Bochy's a Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Hall of Fame manager. I'm not going to second guess him. He knows what he's doing, and he's done this type of thing with bullpens in San Francisco before. Had multiple closers and mix and matched based on matchups and whatnot. So he's done a great job of this before. No reason to think that he won't continue to do it. Chapman, by the way, has pitched very well since he got there as well. 5 innings and 7 strikeouts, no walks. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. and whether it works or not. But again, I'm not going to second guess a Hall of Fame manager. Not this time. I have been known to second guess a manager once or twice. They don't start now. The next front office will have more of a mess. George Sr. would have already fired both. Agreed. Well, I think George died in 2010, I believe. Cashman would not have lasted 25 years with this track record. And again, the beginning of his career where there was some success, he didn't build those teams. The core of those teams were put into place already by Gene Michael. And Buck Showalter, by the way, before Joe Torre got there. So his legacy in 25 years, in my mind, let's say 20 years, we'll give him the last 20 years, 2 World Series appearances, 1 loss, and 1 win. That's good enough in New York. Maybe it's good enough for Met fans. It's not good enough for us spoiled Yankee fans. So you're right. I'll get to your NL East in a second, Drew. I'm putting some money on the Orioles to win it all. I would. I don't know what the futures are for them right now, but I think that's a pretty good wager. If I could get into my DraftKings quick, I would. But what do you got here, Drew, about Chapman and Smith? They are left-handed. That's what I thought. Yeah. And by the way, and maybe Smith will be the guy against righties because Chapman has been known to give up some big hits, long home runs to right-handed hitters in the last few years. Great player when he's got his mind in the game. Wore out his welcome here. All right, where am I here? I lost my standings page. I don't know how I did that. AL East. Well, the break didn't hurt the Phillies. Phillies won 2 in a row. But the Braves, they split coming out. Braves are the best team in baseball, guys. They keep getting injuries. They're only going to get better. They may not make a lot of significant trades. They're going to get Fried back. They're going to get Wright back. Their offense is already really good. They could probably use some help in left field. And I read an article Friday morning, I think, that if the Red Sox do sell, Adam Duvall could have a reunion with the Braves where he really, him and Solar were instrumental in the Braves' run to the World Series 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I can't keep track. I used to be able to. No, but the Marlins lose. They remain 9.5 out, but still playing good baseball. Watch the Marlins go out and make a trade for some offense. The Phillies have won 2 in a row. They're still 11.5 games out of first. I don't think nobody's catching the Braves. The Mets now have lost 4 in a row, 2 coming out of the break. The break did not help the Mets, that's for sure. And the Nationals are the Nationals. Maybe the Mets need to start worrying. I said to somebody, they talked about the Mets finishing last, and I kind of laughed it off, but maybe they could finish last. We got here. Break didn't help anybody. Braves will be unchallenged, as we just said. Marlins will search for bats, as we just said. Phillies will stay relevant if pitching can improve. They'll be out looking for a starter and bullpen help, I think. And potentially, well, now that they brought up Rojas, I thought they might go look for an outfielder where they get Schwarber out of the outfield and in a DH role, maybe move Harper to first base. Or Harper could play the outfield, maybe. But now if Rojas comes up and plays well, and he played well in his debut, this team's still flawed, though, just like it was last year when it made it to the World Series. So the bats could make it up. Mets sink further and be ugly internally because of it. The Nationals may overtake the Mets. That would be quite a story if the Mets did finish last year. I still expect the Mets to rally a bit. Will they catch the wild card? I don't know. What are they now? 8 games behind. 8 games behind the third spot. It's not undoable, but it gets, again, it gets late early here fast, as Yogi once said. I think it was Yogi. Sounds like Yogi. The Mets have got a tough decision to make here. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. I found an article that talked about 6 teams with big decisions to make, and I think the Mets are one of them. I'll give you my teams before I go to that article. Where are we here? Sorry, losing track of what I'm doing here. NL Central. Again, a division that we thought really stunk as bad as the AL Central now has got a viable wild card potential. The Reds cooled off. The break didn't help them at all. Stratifying. Big boy. You got to talk English to these Perth grads, including myself in that. But anyway, they've now got a viable candidate for a wild card spot in either the Brewers or Cincinnati. Cincinnati, as I just said, has gotten off to a bit of a rough start. They'll be looking for starting pitching, as a couple of their pitchers have gone down recently. So everybody's looking for starting pitching. Not that many out there, but some better ones we thought. Bieber getting hurt, it was debatable whether Bieber would get traded anyway. But him getting hurt really weakens that field. And then you got the whole Scherzer and Verlander thing. Cubs are going to sell. Bellinger, again, I know, Drew, you were kind of down on him. I've never been a huge fan, but I like the way he's come back this year. I do think he would play really well in Yankee Stadium. He's a good defensive outfielder. It's a big left field. I think if Judge gets healthy and can play right field, and Bader stays healthy and Bellinger were to come in here, you got a really good defensive outfield. You could play some first base, too, if Rizzo doesn't get his act together. I think Bellinger would be a good guy there. And we've talked about some other guys. You might see Ian Happ available. Yankees would be in on him, I'm sure, for left field. Talked that Brian Reynolds may be back on the block for the Pirates, even though they signed him to a long-term contract. And the Cardinals are going to trade everybody. Arenado has now been listed, Arenado has now been listed as a trade potential. Even Goldschmidt might be potential to go now, depending on offers. Tyler O'Neill obviously is a potential trade partner there as well. These teams are not going to make it. The Cubs may fool themselves into thinking they're in real contention for a wild card, where they're not. They're 7 games out. Don't fool themselves. That's what I worry about. Teams fooling themselves. Teams like the Red Sox, the Tigers. I don't think they'll fool themselves now. The Angels. I don't think the Angels will fool themselves either. The Mariners. The Mets. The Cubs. Maybe even the Padres, fooling themselves into thinking that they're really contenders and don't sell. Anyway, back to Drew's comments here. Milwaukee catches up with Cincinnati. Milwaukee, by the way, has been on a really good roll. They had a bad stretch where they, I don't know. I think they lost. They may have lost like 9 out of 10, but they came back with a 14-7 stretch. They've now 7-3 in their last 10. Won 3 in a row, taken first place back from the Reds, who have lost 3 in a row now. The Reds still are a little young. They got Joey Votto for leadership. Who knows? They might bring in a veteran bat for that lineup as well as looking for some starting pitching. It's going to be interesting to see. That's going to be a fun race throughout the rest of this year, though. Chicago, Pittsburgh, St. Louis will continue to fall and sell, which I totally agree with. Absolutely. Lots of teams trying to be last season's Phillies, including the Astros. Well, the Astros never were in a position the Phillies were last year. Or the Braves were last year, quite frankly. I mean, both those teams, after, I think, 103 games, were still under 500. Somebody could fact check me on that, but I think actually maybe I'm wrong there. I might be thinking of another team, but again, they were fairly late in the season, still under 500, and they made a run. Washington did it a few years ago as well. So there are a lot of teams that think they can be. That's the problem. When they see one team do this, they think the magic is easy. It's not easy. And here comes Drew's NL West analysis, and we'll talk about the same thing. So I'll go to his comments after I make mine. The Dodgers have played very good baseball, even with all the injuries. So again, by the way, injuries, like you got to get my head above your comment, Drew. Injuries are not an excuse anymore. Everybody does. It's a next man up mentality. The Dodgers have had tons of injuries. The Braves have had tons of injuries. Everybody has injuries. The Dodgers have overcome them. The Diamondbacks have slipped a little here recently. Just 11 games over 500, but still well positioned for a wild card and can contend for the division. The Giants continue to surprise me with 4 wins in a row to get within 2.5 games of first. Maybe I'm too hard. I thought Gabe Kapler was a one-hit wonder out there when they won 107 games 2 years ago. Wasn't a big fan of his style or his weirdness, but it seems to work. And this team is solidly in contention here. The Padres keep falling further and further back. 10 games out of first place now. Probably, 6 games, which is not undoable out of the wild card race. They're all going to buy. The Padres probably will not sell. If Ohtani is on the market, the Padres will be in the play for him. They still got some of the best prospects in baseball. I think they got 4 of the top 100. If Ohtani's going to get sold, I see the Dodgers, the Giants, the Mariners. Mariner fans were trying to win him over big time in Seattle during the All-Star break. I think they're the 3 major contenders for Ohtani's services. Could there be others? I mean, and have them long term. Because I think he wants to stay on the West Coast. Now he'll be a rental in a lot of places too, and there could be teams that are willing to trade it for him as a rental. Not sure how the Dodgers keep winning with all their pitching injuries. Kershaw out longer now than they expected, as we mentioned earlier, but they're still the cream of the crop for sure. D-backs are falling to where we thought originally they'd be. They do still need starters. They'll be out looking for starters other than Gallion and I'm trying to think of the other kid's name now. It's escaping me. They're very thin on starters for sure. They've got a really good offense, fast. I think they lead the majors in stolen bases. Their outfield plays great defense because it's fast. Giants still staying in the West Coast hunt. West Coast hunt? Is that what that is? San Diego will mimic the Mets, the mess, and have internal strife due to the losing. I wonder if Bob Melvin's going to want out of there. He's a really good manager, and he's got a mess on his hands out there. Colorado might finally sell. Colorado's got some really good players that I would consider moving. Ryan McMahon, Kyle Freeland, Chase Anderson, Daniel Bard, CJ Cron, kind of a limited player, but he could help somebody needing a left-handed bat. I love Ryan McMahon. I've always loved Ryan McMahon's swing, and he's just never really taken off. He could be a trade partner. Jackson Profar could be a trade guy. Randall Grinchuk, even Chris Bryant, if somebody's willing to take on some money, could help a contender. And Charlie Blackmon, who knows? I think he's on the downside here, but so I do think Colorado's got some guys that they could sell. Will they get a big return for these guys, Drew? No, but I do think they've got some guys they could sell. What else we got here? I think you're going to see a bunch of players traded then coming back to their original teams in free agency. Stroman, Hendricks, Ohtani come to mind. Excellent point to bring up. I've talked about this a lot. I talked about it a lot last year with specifically with Texas and Martin Perez. I think you're stupid. Sorry for the harsh words. Baseball GMs. If you're not in contention, real contention, and you've got a free agent that you want to retain, but has value to teams in a pennant race, you're silly not to trade him and then try to retain him anyway. If guys are going to hit the open market, Ohtani's not going to re-sign with the Angels without taking other offers. He's going to hit the open market. And you might say, well, the team that has him has always got an advantage. I don't think that's true. In some cases. I think the Yankees had an advantage with Aaron Judge, but it's not like he didn't sell his wares all over the place. So you're silly if you don't trade that impending free agent who is not going to give you a chance to sign him before he hits the open market. You're silly not to trade him and get some prospects or whatever. You could get some stuff that could help you still even win this year and then re-sign him in the offseason. Drew's got a great point here. And you don't hear, I don't hear anyway, the pontificators on the different shows talk about this at all. Why is that not a strategy for a general manager? It should be. We've seen it happen. We saw it happen with the Yankees and Chapman. They traded him and got a haul and then signed him in the offseason. We've seen it before, and teams aren't smart enough. Merrill Kelly, thank you for that. I had the M in my head, and I had it in his last name, though, for some reason. Anyway, what else did I want to talk about in baseball here? Let me take a quick look here. I had an article here. Let me see if I still have it around. Of course I lost the thing. 6 teams with decisions to make. Let's see if I still have it. Because I wanted to look at this and see how it matches up with some of the things we talked about. Of course I lost. I can't, it's unbelievable. I lose stuff right and left. Maybe it was in the Athletic. Maybe it was in the Athletic. Oh, I think it was. Of course, now the stories have changed here as well. Miserable day. Well, I think we pretty much covered that anyway. Here's some questions. Some of the biggest questions heading into baseball's second half. This is from the Athletic, too. We'll see what you guys think. Who will the Cubs trade? Again, I think they're going to trade basically anybody. 2 weeks ago, I thought they may hold on to Arenado. Sorry, I did that on purpose. Goldschmidt. But I think all of these guys are going to be available. Goldschmidt's going to be heading into his age 37 season next year. Arenado's not that much younger. He's been around a while. Do they trade them, including the other guys that we talked about, like Flaherty and Montgomery, and I forgot about Jordan Hicks in the bullpen? And who do they trade them for? How do they rebuild this team? Plus, they got Tyler O'Neill they may trade. Cardinals in a worse position than they've been in a long time. Will the Mets sell? We talked about this. They probably won't trade. They may not even trade at the deadline. I don't know. I mean, there's what? How many? 14 days? We got 14 games or something, 13 games until the deadline. The Mets don't play better. You know they're going to trade guys like Carrasco, David Robertson, I would think, and Tommy Pham. Would make sense. The big question is, what do they do about Verlander and Max Scherzer? The problem with them is, I think to move them, you're going to have to eat a lot of contract. If you have to do that, why wouldn't you just keep them? Are the Reds and Marlins for real? I think the Reds are for real, but the pitching's a big question, like it is with a lot of teams. And the question on the other side is the offense. Can the offense pick it up? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I think the Knicks. When did the Knicks start playing Major League Baseball? What's interesting about the Marlins is they've done this well with their best pitcher, Alcantara, not pitching well at all. Pitching horribly, by the way. And another big question with them is, can Luis Arias, however I'm going to say his name today, Drew, hit 400? Can the Rangers stave off the Astros? I say no. I say, yeah, the Rangers will hold on for a playoff spot, but I think they're going to fade here in the second half a bit because of that bullpen. I think because of the lack of depth in their starting rotation. Evaldi's pitched well. Gray's pitched well, but he's always an injury waiting to happen. Dunning's pitched okay. Or really well, actually, in a dual role. But Perez has been not good. I still think they're starting pitcher, and Haney's not. I think Haney pitched okay yesterday, but Haney's not the answer. I mean, if they don't rediscover their 2022, and Andrew Haney, I don't think was that great last year. He was okay, but Perez was good. If they don't retain that or find that magic from last year, this team could fade further if they don't make moves. Then talk about them and Scherzer. How did they take on that payroll? What do we got here? Let me get a couple comments in here. We'll go on. Race Bannon is my favorite cartoon character of all time. Told me years ago that the larger fantasy league, the more challenging, as well as offers valuable insights to others and valuable activities. St. Louis will trade their upcoming free agents as well as some of their outfield surplus. Agreed. They're very down on Tyler O'Neill, and I think he's another guy the Yankees might take a chance on. Problem is, we already took a chance on a St. Louis outfielder with injury history, and Bader, who I love Bader, but he's got to be on the field more. And Tyler O'Neill's had his own injury problems, plus a little bit of an attitude problem. Mets will hold on to Verlander and Scherzer for next year since they only have one more year left on their contracts. I agree. But if only because, Drew, as I said, if you've got to eat the money anyway, you might as well keep them and hope they recover some of their previous effectiveness, which, again, to expect them to be as good as they were 10 years ago was ridiculous. But I know they're old, but they should pitch better than they are right now. What will happen in the AL Central? Who cares? Does it even matter what happens in the AL Central? That team's going out in the first round of playoffs anyway. I mean, if somebody has to win, I mean, the rules are somebody's got to win. I like the Twins to win there. We talked about this. Can the Dodgers weather that injury storm? Somehow they keep winning. They'll be helped by the fact that the Diamondbacks are regressing a little. They're a little young. Lack of pitching. Veteran leadership, not necessarily a big thing right there in Arizona. But watch out for the Giants, man. I don't understand it. But the Dodgers, look at a lot of people get on Dave Roberts. Keeping his team afloat and getting them in first place with a number of injuries to the starting rotation or the pitching staff in general. May's out for the year now. Kershaw's out for who knows how long. I don't know. Will the Angels trade Ohtani? My guess is going to be no. They should, as we just talked about. It is silly. He's going to hit the open market. It makes no sense for them not to trade him. Based on the Angels' history, I say they don't do it. King of the emojis. Dodger will trade for at least one starter using their minor league position players, which they have a plethora of, or so it seems. And there's going to be some starting pitchers available, as we said. Bieber's health makes him a little concerning. Stroman and Hendricks should get traded. Again, based on what we just talked about. You got Zach Greinke out there, who's pitched for the Dodgers before. Greinke would be an interesting pickup for the Dodgers, I think. Again, he's not the Zach Greinke who was with the Dodgers before, but he's still a guy who can go out there and give you some, when his arm's healthy, give you some reliable innings, if not go deep into games. I think Buck is bait. I think a month ago I would have said there's no way he fires Buck in the middle of the season. And Buck's made his share of mistakes this year. Don't get me wrong. But I still think Buck's a good manager. And I'd love to see Buck get fired and come across town because I love Buck Showalter. And I think nothing would be more appropriate for Buck to get his first World Series wearing pinstripes. The right kind of pinstripes. The real pinstripes. But I think he's safe for the rest of this year. What's going to depend on is what happens with Cohen's pursuit of a president of baseball operations. If it's Stern, the guy from Milwaukee, who knows? Did a great job in Milwaukee. I think his name's Stern. But if he gets hired, I mean, Epler and Buck are probably both going to be in trouble. But I don't think they make a trade. I don't think they make a manager move in season. As a rule, it doesn't work anyway. Worked last year with Rob Thompson. It's worked a few times in history. Bob Lemon with the Yankees in '78. There's been some instances where it's worked well. Jack McKeon with Florida. But a lot of seasons, I guess, when you compare that with the number of guys that are fired during the season, it just doesn't really often help. Yeah, I agree with Drew here. And again, I hope they do let him go because I want to see Boone gone. And I want to see Buck come in, and I would love to see Buck because this team's going to win a World Series. They're going to get smart. They're going to move Cashman out of here. Let's get Buck in there and win a World Series. I know that's not his history, but what would be more apropos than him to win a World Series where he should have won one 27 years ago? Will the A's be the worst team of all time? I still bet on yes. They're only one game behind the pace right now. Well, of tying it. Funny part is they say they might not even be the worst team this year. They're only a game and a half, or at least at the time of this article was written, ahead of behind the Royals. The A's also called up three of their top three prospects, don't forget. So maybe that gives them a little bit of a better second half. I don't know. Meanwhile, the relocation drama took a new twist, by the way, during the All-Star break. If you didn't see it, the Oakland mayor, Dow, met with Commissioner Manfred to disprove his comments that there was never a ballpark proposal in Oakland. So Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred with egg on their face again. Listen, I do not think the A's should stay in Oakland. Oakland has not supported the A's. The fan base, the city, probably not in that order. The city first, because they've had to play in this dilapidated football stadium for decades. And the fans for not coming out and watching them play. But now Manfred's going to get an egg on his face because he's going to say they never made a proposal for a stadium. Dave Guyette, it's time to fire Boone and Cashman. Do you think they're both back next season? I do not. But I've said this now for 2 years running. I'm not a fan of either. And I'm not a guy who just calls for guys to get fired. I think you know my history, the arguments I've had with a Mad New Yorker. But Aaron Boone is nothing more than Cashman's puppet. And Cashman has showed he doesn't know how to put a team together that can compete in the playoffs. Or can even compete without their best player. They bring in Sean Casey, but is he the answer for the Yankees offense? I just don't know how much he's going to have an impact on some of these older players. It's going to be up to them to get their game together. Stanton, Rizzo, LeMahieu. Donaldson's probably not going to get a chance. What else did I have about Major League Baseball? Oh, what else you got here? Drew, A's and Royals vying for worst team ever honors. You think the 62 Mets? You think the 62 Mets sit around and break a bottle of champagne every time they've clinched keeping the best record or the worst record in baseball history, like the Dolphins do for their perfect season? I don't even know how many of them are still alive, but that'd be funny to see. They probably spill it all over themselves. A's process will not look like the Reds and Orioles versions. I don't disagree there either, because their best prospects are likely playing elsewhere. Let's see. Let me see if I have anything else I want to talk about. We talked about who, what. I guess that's pretty much covered. We can go back to baseball, but I want to get into some football stuff. Oh, what do you got here? Nope. Thought I missed something. Oh, I did. What do you got here? 62 Mets open champagne on Bobby Bonilla Day. I know Bobby Bonilla and his agent do. That's awesome. Padres are the team with the most to lose. Well, right now they got nothing to lose because they stink. They're not going to keep those fickle fans coming. It's a good point. San Diego's had their issues drawing fans when they don't perform as well as some other cities. I don't think you say they're the most must-make playoff team. I don't think it's going to happen. I do think they're going to go out and make some trades. They've shown a propensity to do that, good or bad. We'll get on. We're going to talk about this right now. Move into the NFL. We can go back to baseball. If you guys still want to talk some baseball, we can go back and forth. I don't have a problem with that, as it is the Sunday Stream of Consciousness after all. I didn't put up my banner for football. Let's talk about this. I don't have Saquon on this rundown, but I should. So to go back to the Mad New Yorker's comment. Actually, let me go back. We'll go back to, let me see if we got some. Dave Gatt says the NFL starts in just 9 weeks. Yes, and the 28 of the undefeated Dolphins still alive. Yeah, I was referring to the 62 Mets being alive, but 28 of the Dolphins being that's actually pretty good. Being that's 40, oh, geez, 51 years ago. That's pretty good, I guess. Well, so if their average age was 28, they'd be in their 80s. I'll sign up for 90 and healthy right now. Snell's not getting traded. They're probably going to. They're going to buy. They're not trading. Anyway, let's move on to the NFL. We'll start with this topic. We're going to talk a little Patriots, a little Jets, a little bit of news from around the league. And then I want to look at the Hall of Fame nominees from the senior and the coaching and contributors. Talk about who may be the best bets to make it this year. And who knows how many, because the NFL can't even, we have to have between, I mean, you could say nobody gets elected like baseball, but we have to elect X amount of people. So anyway, talking about Saquon. If you don't know, Saquon was hit with the franchise tag, has not really signed on for it yet. The Giants made him an offer, which had $20 million guaranteed, by the way, and was probably not an unfair offer. But Saquon sees it as, look, I've only got a window of, I'm a running back. My window is closing quickly. And Saquon's made noises that if we don't have an extension, I'm not playing for that. I'm not playing under that franchise tag. I'm going to sit out the season, which is not a good idea for either side. There is no fallback for the Giants if Saquon doesn't play. Saquon's the best player on the team. Saquon's the face of the franchise. Not in the same way Judge was the face of the franchise for the Yankees. But he is. He's key to them continuing the momentum they built last year. And it is a good football team. Regardless of what the Mad Nuric will tell you, they are a good football team. And there's the second best team in this division. They are not the second best team in this division without Saquon Barkley. You can tell me, we'll just sign Delvin Cook. Well, first of all, he wants 3 years. You're going to guarantee him 3 years? He's not nearly the player Saquon is. Rick, you've seen him play more than I have. At their best, well, I shouldn't say that. Where they are now, Saquon Barkley is far better player than Delvin Cook. It doesn't move either side to let this go on. I think it gets resolved before tomorrow. I don't know what time the deadline is, but the deadline is tomorrow. If they don't extend him, he either signs the agreement to play for the franchise tag or he sits out. And they cannot negotiate with him again until the season's over. Which Saquon says will not happen. If they don't come to an agreement by tomorrow, he will sit. I don't think that's a good idea. No player in the prime of his career should waste a year. Your prime earning years, Saquon. Now, at the same time, I don't think he should sign this contract and then come back and want to renegotiate it next year when he has a great year this year. So I'm of two minds on this story. Both sides are probably in the right and both sides are probably in the wrong. What I do know is the Giants are not a better team with Saquon Barkley sitting out. And Saquon Barkley is not going to help himself by sitting out. He'll get his money, but you sit out a year. I know they're different players, but Le'Veon Bell sat out a year. He got his money, and he was never the same player. And quite frankly, the Steelers were never the same after he sat out a season. They've never adequately replaced him. Oh, what do we got here? Jack said he should sit out, try to get I know. But he's gonna, right now, why would I not take him at his word? He's not going to, it's pretty clear. I don't think he can back up now and take the Giants' offer. I think the Giants are going to have to up their offer a little bit, and maybe they come to an agreement. I don't think it's unfair that he be paid like one of the top running backs in the game, because he is. Problem is the NFL devalues running backs today because they feel like you can replace any one of them, which, again, I don't think is necessarily true. The way the game is played today, running backs are not as valuable. But when you talk about the top 5, how valuable are they? How valuable is Christian McCaffrey? Very valuable. Where's that? Oh, boy. I don't know. I mean, I think the Giants are making a mistake. So we'll leave that at that, unless there's more comments. I want to talk a little bit about the Patriots. I've said for a long time, last couple of years, there's been rumors about Bill Belichick being under some duress with the ownership. And Bob Kraft has made some comments about the drafting that's been done the last few years, about the fact that they haven't made, and then more recently about the fact they didn't make the playoffs the last 2 years, didn't win a playoff game. When they did make the playoffs, not acceptable for the organization as a whole. And I've maintained for the last couple of years that Bill Belichick, and since Tom Brady left, that Bill Belichick will write his own ticket and he will leave when he's ready to go. It's looking less and less like that. There's a lot of news this week about the relationship between the Krafts and Mac Jones is much different and much better than we thought it might be. So if Mac Jones has a good year this year, or Belichick barely wants to mention a kid's name, and I do think Mac Jones is headed for a really good year. Potentially better than his rookie year, which was good enough to make the Pro Bowl, but so does 400 other players. When the guy from Baltimore makes the Pro Bowl last year, it means nothing. But if this push comes to shove and Belichick says, I don't want to continue with this kid, this is a make or break year for the Patriots and Mac Jones. They have to pick up his 5th-year rookie option after this year. So whether he's their long-term quarterback comes down to play this year. And if the Krafts want him and Bill Belichick doesn't, guess who's not going to win this time? The last time this happened, Belichick wanted to move on from Brady, go to Jimmy G, which is a good thing that didn't happen. And the Kraft said no. So Belichick trades Garoppolo and keeps Brady and wins another Super Bowl. 2. I think this time the power struggle forces Belichick out. Now, I really don't think you'll ever see. And again, if the Patriots win 11 games this year, which is possible, you guys are all going to put this team down, but you're going to find out this is a much better team than you think. The defense is really good. Going to be much better than it was last year as well. The offense is going to be head and shoulders above where it was last year just because Bill O'Brien's on the team. This team went 8-9 last year. Should have won 10 games. And if you're not going to tell me that Bill O'Brien isn't worth 2 wins to this offense, actually running a real professional offense knowing what they're doing, putting guys in position to succeed, then you're not paying attention. Bill O'Brien's a really good offensive coach. So I do think this team will have a good year. But if Mac Jones still becomes a focal point of next offseason, Bill Belichick may not be around to coach him anymore. Now, I don't really think you'll ever see Bill Belichick fired. When the time comes, I think, it'll be, mutual. The sides will agree mutually to part ways. Bill wants to spend more time with his family, blah, 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 blah. Oh, the other thing I forgot, Belichick also complaining about the Kraft not spending money. And Kraft saying he's never been denied anything he ever asked for. There's some cracks. And I said he would never be fired and never leave under anybody else's decision but his own. I no longer believe that. This is a huge year for the New England Patriots. I think it will be a good year. They've got a very tough schedule, but they've got a quarterback that I think is eons better than what he showed last year because of the horrible situation his head coach put him in. Soon running backs will need to get will need to be very special to get 2 multi-year contracts, whether one from the draft or 2 from after, simply supply and demand. Too many with similar skills coming out of college. And again, that's the thing that's devalued the running back position for sure. Problem is, as the college game keeps evolving, you may not see as many quality running backs coming out of college either. Who the hell knows? But yes, that is one of the problems. But again, I can't fault a guy who's in the prime of his career wanting to maximize the dollars he can get. His earning potential is very short. Now, I understand he's going to make a whole lot more in that short period of time than I'm going to make over my entire career. Unless I worked on 150. But anyway, there's a couple of things. Again, don't forget the TGI Sports Talk. Let me put it up in here again for anybody who might have just joined. Let me see if I can find this quick. I got to be able to do this, right? It's funny. I can't copy. How come I can't copy that? You know what? I think I can't. Well, that sucks. I can't just copy it. Oh, well. Anyway, it's there in the comments. We'll put it back on later. Don't forget the TGI Sports Talk Fantasy Football League. We'll have some fun with that. Some other news in the NFL right now. Let's find my NFL news. The Dolphins I'm sorry, not the Dolphins. The Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, vows to top 2,000 yards receiving. Or is this offense? Because he does run the ball now and again. Let's see what he's talking about. Receiving. 2,000. It's never happened. Nobody's ever caught for 2,000 yards as a receiver in major league NFL history. Now, first of all, he's got to be on the field because he's also got some legal issues he's got to deal with first. The record right now is 1,964, set by former Detroit Lions wide receiver Calvin Johnson in 2002. Great player. What a waste of his career was by the Lions. Hill was on a pace to break 2,000 yards after 9 games, but then some injuries to the quarterback position derailed him in Miami. So he says he's going to get to 2,000 yards. We will see. There's a lot of places to throw the football there. If he's getting 2,000 yards, then you're probably some other guys aren't going to be terribly happy. When will they let the thug out of jail? I hope we're talking about Hill, because every team's got a thug, right? I'll go on and I'm going to say this every single time there's a violent crime committed by an NFL player, whether it be Tyreek Hill, whether it be Deshaun Watson, whether it be the next guy I'm going to talk about, Joe Mixon, whether it be Ray Lewis involved in a double homicide, don't let the air of a football, because you'll get suspended. Ugh. Joe Mixon has restructured his deal so he could stay with the Bengals. I think part of this is there wasn't a lot of call for his services. I don't remember teams banging his door down in free agency, and now he comes crawling back to the Bengals. He also is facing some menacing charges. I laugh. I was on a show months ago. I won't say what show, because the host wasn't the problem here. But they were talking about, I can't remember the player they were talking about. It wasn't Watson. It was somebody else that got in trouble last year. I guess it doesn't matter. He was defending the player and said, we don't give guys second chances. And I was talking about why would we give guys second chances who, are driving drunk and nearly kill somebody, or are beating up on women, or sexually assaulting women? How do we look the other way and give them another pass? Right? And the guy brought up, and he called me a snowflake. Oh my God. If you know me and anything about my political leanings, I am not a snowflake in any way, shape, or form. He called me a snowflake for not wanting. The snowflakes would want him to get every chance in the world. But he used Joe Mixon as an example of somebody who was given a second chance because he had troubles when he came out of college. And he's been on a righteous path ever since. Well, the guy had just been arrested for menacing and attempted assault, or whatever the charges were. Aggravated menacing charge. According to police records, allegedly pointed a gun at a woman. So the same week we're having this comment that we should give second chances, and he uses an example of Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon had been arrested for waving a gun in a woman's face in a road rage incident, no less, and threatened to shoot her. This is a misdemeanor, by the way. A misdemeanor. Where was the guy? In New York State? Don't let the air out of footballs, guys, because, it's a capital offense. Kamara's a great example as well. The league is full of thugs. And until, I said this when the whole Deshaun Watson thing comes down, until the commissioner in the league takes a hard stance and suspends these guys for entire seasons, or for good, suspend somebody for good. Deal with the lawsuits that will come, and maybe some of these guys will clean up their acts. I think the Bills will be all right, Dave. The East is going to be tough. The East is the best division of football. The AFC East. In my mind. And I think you'll see that. I think you can see the Bills take a step backwards, though, because the rest of the division is getting better. They're still a very good team. If Stephon Diggs does not cause problems there, then we'll know. Alvin Kamara, we just talked about, another junk. Not comfortable with fantasy leagues with defensive players, personally. We can talk about that. I like it. It adds another layer of. It takes a lot more work. It was one thing I did. I think there might have been too many. CA, something we might talk about. I like one player at those positions rather than, I think he had two. I'm not sure, but we don't have to get into the details of that. We'll take a look at it. Some draft. Who has been better, Mixon or Cook? Mixon's got a Super Bowl ring, so I'm going to say Mixon. A better player? I'd say Mixon. Because he played really well in big games. And I don't know you can say the same thing about Dalvin Cook. I'm just talking about football now, right? Not off the field. NFL is a reflection of everyday America. When I worked at the airport, tons of people were ex-cons and had issues. I'm not against giving people second chances, but when you're a repeat offender, let's stop. And it depends on what I'm giving you a second chance for. If I'm giving you a second chance because you got an alcohol problem or a drug problem, that's one thing. I'm not giving you second chances if you're abusing women or abusing children or serious crimes. Serious crimes. We wave a gun at a woman's face in a road rage incident and threaten to shoot her. It's a misdemeanor. Yikes. Wow. Anyway, he's going to resign his contract. Gotta love it. You absolutely have to love it, right? Former Pro Bowl DL Malik Jackson retires after 10 seasons. Former Pro Bowler, which doesn't mean a whole lot anymore. He spent 4 seasons with the Broncos, helping the team to a Super Bowl victory in, I don't remember the year, Super Bowl 50. And he played the next 3 years with Jacksonville. Finished up his season with the Browns this year. Spent some time with the Eagles as well. Jets and their star defensive tackle Quinnen Williams, who is a little upset he didn't get an extension earlier this year when they brought in Rodgers, and I think they extended maybe I can't remember. They might have extended somebody else. They have come up with a long-term 4-year, $96 million extension, $66 million of it guaranteed. Jets are all in, guys. Jets either win a Super Bowl or this is a disaster. Maybe it's not a disaster. If they don't make the playoffs, that's a disaster. I was watching a professional handicapper on CBS Sports Network last night, and he says the Jets will not break that 12-year playoff drought, despite the fact they have Mr. Rodgers at quarterback. They even met a pilot that had a record. Well, it's not safe on the highways. It's not safe in the airways, Carlos. Here's. I want to get to this story about the. Is there anything else here that's that important? Because before we run out of time, I want to get to. And we'll go over a little bit if we have to. I don't think we're going to get to the Northwestern story today, which is okay. I did want to chat about the Hall of Fame has their they have reduced the list of eligible senior nominees to 31. It'll return to 12. This is for the class of 2024. We do know that there's a new class coming in a couple of days. Well, a couple of weeks. And by the way, Joe Klecko and Darrell Revis, two former Jet greats, going in together and are at odds for whatever reason, ragging on each other in social media. Here are the eligible 30 nominees. These are the players. And I can't believe some of these players are in the senior category. It's gotten them. I can't believe how old I've gotten. Ken Anderson, I would put in the Hall of Fame. I like Ken Anderson a lot. Otis Anderson, probably not. Carl Banks, yes. Maxie Bagon, I don't know well enough. Larry Brown, nice running back with the Redskins, no. Mark Clayton, no. byproduct of that offense in Miami and Dan Marino's greatness in my mind. Charlie Connerly, borderline. Roger Craig has got to be in a Hall of Fame. Can't believe he's on this list. Henry Ellard, no. Randy Gradishar, borderline. Lester Hayes, yes. Chris Hinton, no. Cecil Isabel, don't know that well. Joe Jacoby has to be in the Hall of Fame. Billy White Shoes Johnson has to be in the Hall of Fame. Made special teams cool. Mike Ken, borderline. Bob Kuchenberg, Hall of Fame. George Coons, Albert Lewis, Jim Marshall, Hall of Fame. I know that'll be popular with Rick, not popular with a lot of other people. Hall of very good in people's minds. Held a record for most games played for a long time. Survived in the wilderness during a dog sledding accident. Clay Matthews Jr., probably not. Steve McMichael, probably not. Eddie Meter, probably not. Stanley Morgan, I'm going to say no. Hall of very good. Still holds a with all the offense this team had with Tom Brady a quarterback during the second half of his career, especially. Stanley Morgan is still a career leader in yards receiving for the Patriots, by the way. Tommy Nobis, Hall of Famer. Art Powell, don't know. Sterling Sharp, short career, great player, Hall of Famer. Steve Tasker, no. Otis Taylor is not in the Hall of Fame. Yes. Everson Walls, no. Al Weissert, no. Separately, coach and contributors. I'll take your comments and we'll go through this. You guys can make any comments you want. They reduced the list of coach contributors to this is a different committee, by the way. It's a separate 12-man committee. The coaches or contributors advancing. Bud Adams. I don't know. Bud Adams was instrumental in the AFL founding, but no. Roone Arledge has got to be in the AFL Hall of Fame. How is Roone Arledge? Monday Night Football is probably the main catalyst to where the NFL eventually headed this huge sports product, billion-dollar industry. Monday Night Football directly led to the beginnings of that. Roone Arledge has got to be in the Hall of Fame. C.O. Bercato, I don't know. Tom Coughlin, he won 2 Super Bowls. How can he not be in the Hall of Fame? Alex Gibbs, maybe. Ralph Hay, don't know enough about. Mike Holmgren, no. Bucko Kilroy, no. Eddie Kotal, don't know enough about. Bob Kraft has got to be in the Hall of Fame. Bob Kraft's got to be a Hall of Fame. Not just for the New England Patriots' success, but he's also one of the most influential people in the game, in the league, on committee after committee. Elmer Layden, I don't know enough about. Jerry Markbright, one of the great referees. Yes. Virginia McCaskey, I say no, just because you're the daughter of Alex Hallis. Alex Hallis doesn't make you, or Alex Haley almost said. George Hallis does not make you a Hall of Famer. Buddy Parker, don't know enough about. Carl Peterson, yes, Carl Peterson belongs in the Hall of Fame. Dan Reeves, man, yes, Dan Reeves belongs in the Hall of Fame. Art Rooney Jr., no. Marty Schottenheimer, very, very interesting case. Yes. Jerry Seaman, no. George Seifert, no. Mike Shanahan, yes. Back-to-back Super Bowls, yes. Clark Shaughnessy, don't know enough about him. Seymour Seawolf, don't know enough about him. Jim Tunney, former guest on One-on-One with Keith Engel, yes. Jim Tunney belongs in the Hall of Fame. Lloyd Wells, no. John Wooden, don't know enough about. So this is the seniors, and they'll be whittling that down even further, and we'll talk more about it. What do we got here? Any comments on those things you can kind of bring up? And we've got a couple other things maybe we'll close with if you don't have comments. Joe Mixon doesn't have a Super Bowl win. Neither is Dalvin Cook. At least Joe Mixon's been to a Super Bowl and contributed mightily to getting there. So how is that saying? How are you going to say Cook is better because Mixon doesn't have a Super Bowl? Did I miss Dalvin Cook winning a Super Bowl? Did I fall asleep, Rick? Did your Super Bowl streak get broken? Don't disagree with us at all, Rick. Sharp, Shannon Sharp. Sterling Sharp was a game changer. Sterling Sharp was the best player at his position while he played nearly every year in my mind. But Chuck Foreman needs to be in. How Chuck Foreman doesn't even make these lists, potential senior nominees, is amazing to me. And again, he has said on my show and in other interviews, I know that Dan Harris just interviewed him on his Let's Talk Sports show. I asked him about the Hall of Fame. He doesn't understand how the criteria, how people are put in. I don't understand it. I don't think anybody understands it. And I think the best answer I've ever gotten during an interview was when I said at the end of the conversation about the Hall of Fame, do you believe you belong in the Hall of Fame? And his answer was, you're goddamn right I belong in the Hall of Fame. Had a little Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men feel to it. I loved it. So I agree. Sharp gets in, Foreman needs to be in. But I don't want to penalize Sterling Sharp because of the oversight on Chuck Foreman either. Let's go. You know what? And guys, if you have more comments about this list, please bring them up. But I want to talk about one more thing before we go today, and we'll probably get this in and we won't go over. Tell me how in the year 2023 this Northwestern hazing scandal can even happen. And how can a university investigate this for 6 months, get the report, and then the university president suspends the coach, Pat Fitzgerald, who I had a lot of respect for before this came out, suspend him for 2 games. And he didn't get fired until after the report came out. The same weekend, a former player and some current players collaborated his story that what actually happened in the locker room, basically sexual abuse of these kids that were hazed. They had no, it wasn't in the report. What did you investigate for 6 months if that part of it wasn't in the report? And if it was in a report and you only suspended the coach for 2 games, were you going to cover this up? Was that your idea? Is to do what Penn State did with Jerry Sandusky and just cover it up? Now, I'm not saying this reached that level, but I don't know. You're sexually abusing young men is the way I read the story. Hazing's a bullshit, ridiculous thing anyway. It's bullying with a different name. You know, it was probably, I mean, whether it's this or forcing kids to drink until they're sick and kids have died from alcohol poisoning, it's ridiculous. And it's lack of oversight. This happened in the locker room. Coaches didn't know. I'm not saying Pat Fitzgerald condoned it, but it happened under Pat Fitzgerald's watch. He's got to be fired. And every assistant coach under him should have been fired. Everyone, including the guy, who the frick did they hire? Braun, defensive coordinator Braun, who's going to be the interim head coach. Everybody should have gone. There's no way coaches don't know this was happening. Maybe they don't know the extent of it. Just like in the Penn State case, Joe Paterno had to go. It happened under his watch. Because here's the thing. If you know, that's certainly horrible. If you don't know, to me, it's just as bad. You don't know what's going on. You have no administrative control over your team when you don't know what's going on with your players. Every team has got guys watching players for what they're doing off the field. In today's day and age, Pat Fitzgerald's career is over. He was bandied about as an NFL prospect, coaching prospect for a lot of years. Every time the Bears job opened up while he was at Northwestern, his name came up. And he was the most successful coach in Northwestern history, which may not look like a lot to you guys, but winning at Northwestern is really hard in the Big Ten, where you got real student athletes. Again, I know other universities do, but it's a little different in Northwestern. You can't recruit the same kids. He went to bowl games. He won 10 games. He competed for a Big Ten title just 3 years ago. But this has been going on. This isn't new. It's been going on for years, according to the kids. How does this happen in today's day and age? I mean, it reaches criminal proportions. If you remember, again, these weren't kids. These kids were hazed, bullied, whatever you want to call it. And if there's sexual part of this, which is unwelcome, it's sexual abuse. Jerry Sandusky went to jail. Guys who allowed that to happen in the Penn State administration went to jail, lost their jobs and went to jail. Cannot go on. This is 2023, guys. It's been part of my point from the start. I know these kids are young, but nobody stood up and said, hell no. Agreed. Again, look it. When you get to be 20 years old, they're the upperclassmen, right? So they're 20, 21 years old. You know better. You know this is wrong. But where are the adults? As Rick said, saying, hell no, what are you doing? And if they didn't know, it's even worse than them ignoring it, probably. Or as bad, anyway. Just not cool. And Northwestern, this is gonna hurt Northwestern for a long while. And maybe comparing it to the Sandusky story isn't fair, but I don't have a better comparison to use because of what went on. Hazing, again, most of the time is nothing more than glorified bullying. And it's uncalled for and it's not needed. Talk about it more in a college football huddle. What else you guys got? We're going to wrap it up if you got nothing else. We'll talk, as I said, I'll be back, I think, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock with the college football huddle. There's a lot of other things to catch up on. Tennessee punishment comes down. They'll lose no bowl eligibility, but they do have to vacate some wins, and it costs them $8 million. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about a lot of stuff that's happened and a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the world of college football. And maybe some other wrap up, some other college sports as well. Guys, Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks so much for your great participation as always. Catch us here next Sunday at 8:30 a.m. Catch us Friday with Are You Serious? Catch us Wednesday night with the college football huddle. And then you've got the Major League Baseball update. We've got Let's Talk Here Sports. We've got lots of stuff to talk. I may try to get Larry for Wednesday to kind of wrap up the Wake Forest baseball season and look forward to the ACC. Guys, have a great Sunday. See you later, and I will talk to you on the other side.